Guys, this issue of the MK party is getting interesting. 2024 elections are gonna be the most interesting elections ever. I don't even think people are actually aware. Guys, you guys need to remember, Pella, our former president Jacob Zuma was a president. That's why former president. So when he just goes to endorse another party, I mean, guys, do you know how many years this person we've seen on TV? Do you know how many people know this person? Do you know how many people love this person? As much as he's loved, but you know also he's hated by a lot of people. But when you speak about his province, okay, maybe let's put it this way. Do you think South Africans, not just KZN, just South Africans as a whole, the whole country, do you think there's more South Africans? Let's not talk about politics or a party. Let's talk about the individuals, just the individuals, comparing Ubabu Jacob Zuma and Ubabu Cyril Ramaphosa, out of just the both of them. The reason why I'm doing this video is just because I've seen an interesting video of Mbeki, Ubabu Mbeki Konamanje, our former president. He's had some things to say about the MK party and about President Zuma. I think he's dissatisfied the fact that President Zuma has had to do what he did in registering the party and in still being in the ANC but campaigning for the MK party. So anyway, let's come back to this question that I want to ask you guys. Between Ubab Cyril Ramaphosa and Ubab Jacob Zuma, out of the both of them, who do you think is loved the most by South Africans? I'm not talking about political parties, and I'm not talking about who's going to vote for what part. No, I'm just talking about okay, let's start with just recognition. If you put both of them here, I know there's millions and millions of South Africans, and you were to put millions of South Africans here, who would be recognized the most out of both of their faces? Number two, who do you think is loved the most by South Africans? Not Zulus, not people in KZN, but by South Africans. Who do you think is loved the most between the both of them? And who do you think is the most recognizable? Why am I asking that question? I'm asking that question so as to say these upcoming elections are so interesting because you've got a brand new party that's just been announced 2 months ago that is being campaigned for by the former president, a highly recognizable figure in the country. What dynamics or let me say, what interesting dynamics does that aspect throw in the current elections? Remember, guys, out of all the elections we've ever had since 1994, we've never had this situation that we are in right now. I guess that's the reason why a lot of people are saying the ANC is panicking. Because out of everything the ANC has had to go through with its decline from election to election, with all these small parties forming, and it being divided and all the different factions within the ANC. Yes, we're amazing in our diversity, but I always personally believe we are stronger when we are together. If it was according to me, I would love for black people, for there to be just a black people's party that just represents all black people, all South African black people, and we agree amongst one another. And yes, it's not just for blacks, it also accommodates everybody, but that is according to me. If there were to be such a situation, I would love one big party that represents all black people. I guess that's why the dynamics have been interesting, with the ANC being the Liberation Party since back in the day, being the biggest. I guess also as the years keep going by, the infighting, the division, and just also the white man's dream has always been divide and conquer. The more black parties there is, the better, because that's when we are able to. I mean, we've even heard, even on a lot of official platforms, former presidents speaking, Ubab Jacob Zuma speaking and saying they want the ANC divided. They want the ANC to break up. But Vele, that's a fact. They've always wanted black people divided. Since the Berlin Conference, when they divided the continent, they've always wanted us apart because we are not strong when we are apart. Anyway, it's not according to me. It's according to the upcoming elections. Let's come back to the topic at hand. What interesting dynamic do you think the MK party brings? Forget about its manifesto, if it's really going to make a difference, if it's really going to bring the change. if it's going to succeed or not. Forget about all of it. Let's talk about now in the next coming 2.5 months. The elections are on the 29th of May, a day after my birthday. What dynamics do you think it brings? The fact that the MK party's face is a former president. What do you think? I'm interested to hear your opinion on your opinions on this one. But I think it's interesting. Usually ANC people have always looked at historical data, and historical data has always looked at the parties that would break off from the ANC as to how they would do afterwards on their own in the following years. You'd look at parties like the UDM, you'd look at parties like the COPE. The EFF came and changed that dynamic, because there's never been a party that has grown as much as the EFF has grown. And also you need to remember this interesting dynamic here that I want to also throw into the picture. The biggest mistake that the ANC ever did, to lose a huge part of its youth constituency and the young people that were growing with the ANC, was losing or firing Mr. Julius Malema. Because what did he do? He was a youth leader of the ANC. He was an ANC Youth League leader, and he had a following. That following was not only following the party, a huge number of that following followed him later. They might not have followed him in the beginning when he started the EFF, but years later they've had to follow him for whatever reason, for what the EFF stands for, or maybe the confidence that they've had in Julius, or maybe some of them were disgruntled, whatever, for whatever reason, right? And they're doing well. And they brought in an interesting dynamic in South African politics, where now there is a party that can be looked at as a example that has broken off from the ANC, and it looks like it's growing. It's succeeding from election to election. It's got some percentage of growth. Because before that, there was not that example. So in the past 10 years, the ANC has lost its youth league. Now, the interesting dynamic that 2024 elections are bringing is that the ANC has lost its older, and I'm not saying there was I know there's a women's league, and I'm not saying the MK was sort of just bear with me here what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying and the MK played any significant role in the ANC whatsoever, right? But what I want to say to you, thank you, Jayam. Sisonke. What I want to say to you guys is, the older market, or the older people who've been following the ANC for many, many, many years, they know MK, they know the history of MK, they know where the MK comes from, they know where the MK, they know its history. These are South Africans, Abatala. So is it safe to also say, when the ANC lost Julius Malema, and with the birth of EFF, they lost a huge part of their youth, and now they are losing, or they're in a position where they are challenged by a situation facing a older demographic of the ANC that is familiar with the name MK and what the military wing of the MC was, and what it meant for back in the day, when he was still alive, may his soul rest in peace, what it meant for. That plays a big role, because Jacob Zuma, as I did say earlier on, has got a lot of people that not only will be following the MK because of whatever they stand for, what their manifesto is, etc. Some people are just following the man for the man himself, for the actual guy. You've got hundreds of thousands, if not a few millions, of South Africans now who buy that Morfire can every day. And a huge number of them is because of me. Maybe half of them, if not more, is because of the individual SPU. Why? Because the SPU decided and said, I'm going to start this company. I'm going to partner with these people. Guys, we are starting our own things, and this is the energy drink of my choice. This is my company. Support me, South Africans. That's why I'll never enter the conversation that says black people don't support each other. I refuse, because otherwise I wouldn't be a DJ Smooth. I wouldn't be as successful. I wouldn't have had radio shows that have had millions of listeners, TV shows that have had millions of viewers. I wouldn't be selling millions of cans of Mofa every month. I wouldn't even have a career. I wouldn't be even be able to afford a school fee if it wasn't for black South Africans that support me daily. So I eject myself from that conversation as support, and I think it's a myth. I believe if you give black people good quality, and you are sincere for black people, and you're there and you give them professionalism and great service, and real meaning in the story for what you're building or what you're starting or what you're selling, I believe black people will support you. Black people just want conveniency. They want great customer service. They want great quality products. They want to be treated well. That's all. I really think. That's what I think. And that's why I think black people are buying Maxhosa. That's why I think black people are buying Richimnisi, are buying Konka, are buying Batu, Trip, Mofire. I guess that's the reason, because those companies have decided to rise to the occasion of being held on international standards and of being held in these standards of these international companies that black people have been used to. Right? So I believe there's potential there in black people reclaiming back the economy if there's more black-owned business. But that's a conversation for another day. Let's come back to this thing. So it's highly likely that a lot of people followed Jacob Zuma to the MK party because of the actual individual. But then you've got a certain part of society, which would be, I'd say, the educated guys, or maybe the middle class. Other people would call them the clever blacks, who would vote because of the policies or the manifesto that's gonna come from the new party, etc., etc. But for me, the interesting dynamic in these politics is that you've got two presidents, former, one current, who might be former as well, going up against each other, with 2 months to go before the election. What do you think, guys? It's an interesting one. I've never seen such an interesting dynamic. And you can even see it in the media. You can even feel the panic within the ANC constituency. You can feel the panic. It's because they know the power of Jacob Zuma. It's because they know that Jacob Zuma is loved by a lot of people. Is because whatever they can say about Jacob Zuma, whether you like it or not, that man was a man of Abantu. That man he spoke to us. He made us laugh. We made fun of him. We called him names, but he would still come and smile and laugh. Then he's still smiling and laughing with us. It doesn't matter how we feel about him. So there's just that thing about him. The fact that he didn't even go to school. But that thing that makes him loved by so many South Africans. He just has an interesting dynamic. And then you have him, who's a former president and a former president of the party, campaigning for a different new party. Yeah. This is scary, guys. If I was Ubab Cyril, I'd be scared, honestly. This is scary. This is an interesting dynamic. I don't know if you guys understand. MK party. Hey, nivumbuke ngenye into esingayicabanganga man. Manje abanye abantu sixakekile ngapha sazi senze. Who are you voting for when?